I am getting goosebumps just saying it, but this happens to be the end, my final review here in my humble lab. Jay's Audio Lab is gonna go big, real soon. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. On today's video, I am going to be reviewing the latest creation from MSB Technology, the Cascade DAC. Is this the best DAC that I have ever owned? Stay tuned to find out. MSB Cascade. Throughout the past month, you have seen a lot of short videos on this Cascade DAC from MSB. I've also done comparisons against the Wadax Studio Player. Today I want to focus on giving you my take on this incredible DAC from MSB Technology with an MSRP of $95,000 as configured. This is one hell of a DAC. But before I get started, I want to applaud MSB for actually giving us a more affordable product than their previous flagship, the MSB Select II, which, by the way, was an incredible DAC, which I actually owned for about a year, and it was my best performing DAC ever. I really do not know how MSB did it, how they actually went from a $120,000 or actually a $140,000 Select II DAC, because you have to add the digital director, which was about 20 grand. How they went from $140,000 for the former flagship to $95,000 for what I consider a superior DAC in every possible way. Why don't we get started and go over this incredible device? So as you can see right now on your screen, the DAC comes with 3 separate chassis, which, by the way, if you're going to stack them the way I have it here, you should be doing it exactly how I am doing it. I spoke to MSB, and this is the recommended sequence in which they want to be stacked. This is the order. At the bottom, you should have the power base. In the middle, you should have the main control unit. And at the top, you should have your digital director. This is what they claim to be the best way to isolate each particular chassis from each other. Now, if you're going to place them on separate shelves, you don't really have to worry about that. As far as the remote, is a beautiful brushed aluminum black remote, which feels really well built. As far as the functions, you have all the typical settings, the brightness function. You have the auto dimming display mode, if that's what you want to do. You have obviously different types of configuration for the main display or the home display of the unit. You have the startup volume. In this case, by the way, I am using it as just a source, meaning I am not using the preamplifier section, but you can activate it. As you can see, I'm doing it right now, but I'm going to put it back where it was, which is preamplifier off. So let's go around the back so I can show you. This particular DAC is configured with a Pro USB module input, which is the first one right here. You have the Ethernet connection for, let's say, Roon. If you're planning to stream through your network, you can utilize Roon or JPlay. You also have optical inputs. You have a coaxial input. You also have one additional blank slot in here where you can actually option it out with, let's say, AES. If you're looking for an AES input, you can definitely purchase that separately. So now that you know a little bit about this Cascade in its current configuration, let's get started with the pros. Bass. When it comes to bass articulation, when it comes to bass pitch definition, the bass is extremely tight. Texture, it's got a lot of muscularity to it. I never detected any overhang. It felt very powerful and deep. It's actually shocking the improvement that this DAC made on my Martin Mingus right behind me, as well as these TAD CR1 TXs. I will tell you that even on stock power cords, the bass that this device put out was second to none. The tonal balance and textural richness of the mid-range is simply outstanding. Vocals were locked in the middle, really lifted up in the air. There was so much body, mid-range warmth and definition. I actually was able to separate, believe it or not, the mids, the lyrics, if you will, of every recording quite easily. I want to call it almost tube-like in so many ways because it was so rich, it was so projected out into the room. I never felt any sort of like struggle trying to make out the lyrics of every song that I listened to. The highs, and here we go. When it comes to the high frequency, I gotta say there are so many DACs out there that don't have the level of polish when it comes to the high frequencies, when it comes to the top end, if you will, that this particular DAC displays. It is so refined, it is so smooth. It actually made the diamond tweeters on my Mingus sound so much more elegant, so much more polished. For a minute, believe it or not, in my early days with my Mingus, which happened to have, again, a diamond tweeter, I found it so abrasive at times, so unrefined. The moment I inserted this DAC in my system, that all went away. Everything went away. Now that top end just was really out into the room and it just sucked me in completely. The greatest strength of this DAC is its musicality. I can honestly say now, after listening to this Cascade for the last month, that I can detect graininess in some of the DACs that I've owned in the past. Graininess that is completely gone, it's absent, it's completely erased from this MSB Cascade. The graininess that I found with other DACs were things that I simply learned to live with. I never knew any better. I never knew that it was there until I heard a superior machine, until I heard this particular DAC. If you're looking for musicality, it is going to be a difficult task for you to beat this Cascade DAC. One of the greatest strengths of this DAC also happens to be the fact that even poor recordings, yes, your bad recordings from the 80s and 70s, actually sound really, really good through this Cascade. It does a fantastic job at somehow remastering these old records and turning them into something very pleasant to listen to. And I have no idea how MSB did that, but I found myself listening to recordings that I normally cannot even listen to through other DACs from the past. This unit is as close to perfection as you can get, but as you know, nothing is 100% perfect. One of the cons of this particular unit is, of course, no secret by now, right? The price tag at $95,000. It is a tough pill to swallow for many of us. It is not cheap, but who said great quality components are always cheap? This piece, in my opinion, it is definitely worth the asking price of $95,000. And I have to remind you, again, this is approximately $45,000 than the former Select II with the digital director. Another con happens to be the fact that it takes 2 power cords, and let me tell you, no. When you get here, you cannot be using stock power cords. You got to get out there and buy 2 quality power cords from the name brand of choice. Whatever brand you like, you definitely need to factor those in. And let's face it, a lot of these audiophile grade power cords are approximately what, 5,000 on average each, so that's another 10 grand. So now you're looking at $105,000 total to get this DAC configured the right way. And another con, this is me just simply nitpicking, okay? This is me simply nitpicking. I personally feel that if I were to order the Cascade, I would probably choose the silver color. And the reason why that is because the black color, this color itself, shows dust and fingerprints. And if you happen to really rub up against it, it shows like streaks across the finish. Okay, that's one thing that I really dislike about this particular black finish. So again, if you are an OCD type of guy that cannot stand dust or any sort of like fingerprints or just any sort of blemish of any kind, I would tell you right now, stay away from the black finish, order the silver. It's a lot easier to live with the silver color. Yep. Got to clean this thing now. Now, shifting gears into this conversation about the Wadax Studio Player right behind me and the Cascade and how they compare. I've heard a lot of narratives out and about, opinions from unqualified people, let's be honest, people that don't even have both units next to each other the way I do. And I'm here to tell you that the Cascade is a superior piece to the Wadax. So don't go out there creating narratives and say that the Wadax Studio Player is just as good as the Cascade, because I'm here to tell you that's not the case. However, Wadax, I know you're watching me right now, Wadax, in Spain, I'm going to say this to you, okay? And I'm going to say it in Spanish, as a matter of fact, so I'm going to put the translation underneath. Ustedes tienen inmediatamente que sacar el power supply y también el clock de el Wadax Studio Player, porque hermanos, no puede con el Cascade, no puede así mismo como está, no puede con el Cascade. Les digo ahora mismo, es necesario que saquen el power supply y el clock de el Studio Player. Anyway, hopefully you like my Spanish right there, but basically, that's the truth, okay? You need that PSU and the clock to really compete against the Cascade. It is not a fair match. Remember, that's $41,000, $42,000. This is $55,000 more. So there is a huge price difference. You can buy two Wadax players for the price of one Cascade. Think about it, and still put money in your pocket. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. However, I will say this, and I will give Wadax their kudos. For the money of $41,000, in my opinion, that is the one player to beat. I personally think Wadax actually made this piece, and it was a strategic move to put it right next to the same price points of, guess what? The esoteric K1X SE, which I happen to have for sale on my website, jaysaudiolab.com. If you haven't seen my website and you're looking for used high-end gear, check out my website, jaysaudiolab.com, for great quality hi-fi products. And let's not forget that it also brings it to the Rossini Apex player. So it's not really an attempt to sit next to a Cascade. It's more an attempt to sit next to the other players, Super Audio CD players from other digital manufacturers like DCS and Esoteric. However, again, for the money, I gotta say, I think the Wadax is a fantastic machine, and you bet your ass that when they release the clock and the power supply, it will be right in here in the lab, and we are gonna do another battle of the Cascade against a fully configured Wadax Studio Player. In conclusion, closing, I have to say it right now. I have to be 100% transparent. Right now, this has been the most impressive DAC that I have had the pleasure of owning. It is a fully featured DAC that I can assure you will satisfy the pickiest audiophiles out there. There is nothing that it is lacking, in my opinion. Perhaps a more affordable price point, but listen, why go there? But those of you that can afford it can be sure that this will go above your expectations. It is, without a doubt, 100% Jay's Audio Lab approved. And that brings me to the final statement that I want to make here on my channel. This is the final review of an audio product in my lab. I am getting goosebumps just saying it, but this happens to be the end, my final review here in my humble lab. Jay's Audio Lab is going to go big, real soon. Thank you for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.